This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Raceport TV Friday Prime Time here on the iRacing Esports Network. We head to round 4 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. This time our venue is going to be the Donington Park National Circuit here in the UK, as you get ourselves a good shot of the venue that plays host to today's racing. Of course, this is a 12-week schedule here. There's the track information up on screen for you now. Partly cloudy, but still relatively cool out there on circuit. Just 22 degrees here as we head into the late afternoon in sim time. Wind speeds at 14 kilometers an hour. Of course, we are using the national layout here, just almost 2 miles in length. There is your schedule up on screen for you now. We had a fantastic race last week out at Road America. We are looking to continue on the theme here this time around at the Donington Park Circuit. And then next week, we'll be heading our way across the Atlantic once again to Road Atlanta. But before we get to do so, and before we get started here, we'll get ourselves a preview lap provided to us by Virtual Racing School and Martin Kroenke, and my co-commentator Paul Smith will take you through it.
So here we go, or we would do if the lap would actually show up on screen. This is a good start to the broadcast, isn't it? Technical problems here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can sort that out for you. But yeah, I was hoping to give you the hot lap there. Hopefully we can get that fixed here right about now. Here we go then. So it's finally a lap of the Donington National Circuit. You come out the final chicane, trying to carry as much speed down the straight into turn number 1. Hard onto the brakes for Redgate, down to 4th gear, clip the apex, running out wide to the left hand side for the entry to Hollywood, and then the crane of curves. You go plunging downhill. Undulation is going to be a theme around this track as we get to the bottom of the hill to the old hairpin. Again, 4th gear, clip the curb. You can run it out wide up over the curb on the exit there, and then through the left kink as we head uphill towards McLean's once again here. Through a right-hander, 4th gear. Some drivers can tuck it down to 3rd gear, but 4th gear is the optimal one. Now back up the gears again to Coppice. Really important to get your line right through here. Don't go too far wide after the apex, because you've got a second apex right there as we head on down the Starkey Straight towards the final chicane. Keep it over to the left hand side and hit the brakes just after the rise in the track, up over the curbs, out the final corner, and that is your VRS hot lap here with Martin Kroenke.
Yep, absolutely a brilliant demonstration. Of course, you can find the lap and the full tutorial at virtualracingschool.com. So that is absolutely awesome, as we'll get ourselves the sort of latter minutes of qualifying here. Those are the standings up on the left-hand side of your screen. Ade Copa Lopez currently P1 in that one, as we'll try and get that one. So it seems to be the day of technical issues. Do apologize for that one, but Daniel Arusha will currently be provisionally 2nd place on the grid. We have Jamie Fluke making his first appearance here in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge here, so he gets himself up onto 3rd on the grid as it stands. And with the runners that are currently out there, I'm not entirely sure if that one will get to change. Of course, as always here, Paul, it is the 2nd lap of the 2 that you get to do here that's going to be the fastest.
Yeah, the way that you warm up the tyres and the way that you really take advantage of that tyre build up and the pressures as well. It's not just the temperatures, it's the pressures of the tyres that can affect your lap time round here. We're coming towards the end of qualifying here. Brian Lockwood out there coming down the straight for the final time. Time is running out for the last of the drivers. As you can see on that timing screen, Thomas Gibson is out there as well. Some names that a lot of people won't know are in this field because the front wheel drive car, it's a different style of driving, and some of these drivers are certainly making advantage of that as Brian Lockwood moves up into 17th.
Yeah, just gets that lap in the dying moments. We'll get ourselves our starting grid here for today's race. Arecopa Lopez, pole position, the only driver inside the 1 minute 10s, with Daniel Araujo lining up on that front row next to Copa Lopez. Meanwhile, we have Jamie Fluke and Thomas Gibson comprising of row 2 here today, with 5th and 6th on the grid going to Koen Klopman and Daniel Kraft. Romano Berenkik there with P7, with Janne Houtamaki in P8. Victor Alban P9, with Kane Halliburton starting inside the top 10 here today, with Tim Graven P11, Sergio Hidalgo in P12. Miguel Garcia Sanchez will have to start in P13 here today, with Cedric Nebelschek, that Team RSO driver, down in P14. Jorge Barrio in P15. Pete Nguyen will start in 16th here today, with Brian Lockwood 17th. Juan Pablo Ternoni in P18. Nicholas Short and Xavier Sanchez will round out your full 20-car grid as these guys grid themselves up behind the pace car in turn 8. Coppice Corner, just a short run to the line here, Paul, and that means these drivers will not really have a chance of getting themselves their tyres warmed up.
No, absolutely, and it's going to be really tricky. Laps 1, 2... with some cars even into lap 3 as to how they handle the warm-up of these tyres. So it depends on your setup, it depends on how well you work it on this little bit of a pacing, I would say a lap, quarter of a lap really, around here. We're just waiting for one more car and then we'll be good to go for the start of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Just waiting for the driver starting in P number 4. That's Thomas Gibson to take. Sorry about that, but we will get ourselves the start of the race here. Just a couple of issues as Arecopa Lopez trying desperately there to warm his tyres here for the start. Your pole position sit-up. Desperately trying to work some heat into those tyres. You see some drivers just content with how they are. Some of them actually deciding to do a couple of burnouts here towards the start to try and get some form of heat into those front tyres. But of course, those rears won't come into fruition in terms of the heat until a little bit later on in the race. Through the final chicane they go. A little bit of last-minute tyre warming for your front row of the grid. Pace car on the lane. Arecopa Lopez gets the green flag. We are racing here for round 4 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. A good launch for Arecopa Lopez. Gets himself a good couple of tenths of a second, but the battle for P2 is on. Down and towards Redgate Corner for the first time. Araujo will have to lose position there, so that is Gibson up from P4. He gets himself up into P2. Fantastic start there for the driver of the number 14. Everyone going single file though, mostly down through the crane of curves for the first time. Jamie Fluke looking to make a move early on Araujo, as Araujo's going to have a little bit of an issue there coming through the old hairpin out into the grass, gets cycled towards the back of the field. The pass has been made regardless though by Jamie Fluke, but he has Kraft all over his back bumper.
Yeah, he does, and this is what I was talking about early on about the tyre temperatures. There's even more cars going off. That's Kane Halliburton heading off the track at McLean. So drivers really struggling to get tyre pressures and temperatures into their cars, as we've got a car round, and it's Halliburton is around, so too is Hidalgo.
Yeah, an instant towards the back of the field there. Of course, Sanchez did start there down in last place. Kane Halliburton started inside the top 10. It is a bit of a door barge in there with Hidalgo coming through what is going to be the turn 7 of McLean's, and Nicholas Short also got a piece of that, trying to file his way through as well. but as far as I can see, none of those have retired from this race as it stands. So still all 20 runners going here out on towards the start of lap 2. We have another spinner down the field. That one's going to be Beranek. Does take the tow back to pit lane, so that will be one official retirement from this race. What happened here out of turn 1? It's a bit of a tangle with what is going to be the car of Ale Blanc there as they headed their way towards the entries of the Craner curves.
Yeah, we'll have a look then from the car then, and it's just coming out the corner then, out of Redgate, and just moving across slightly is that Historia car, and bang into that concrete wall, unforgiving concrete wall there, and he is out. Parked up in the pit lane as we've got more drivers running slowly, and that's Abelan as well. So the car who sent Beranek off track, he's dropping down the order as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a scrap happening ahead of him, as well as Pete Newman tried to make his way by on Halliburton, who got himself involved in that incident just a lap ago. But on towards lap number 3 now, we have a driver pushing wide further up the field. That was Hautamaki having a couple of issues coming out of turn 1. Nebelzik will take the position, so will Tim Graven coming through the Craner curves. Outside line for the old hairpin, though, for the driver of the number 8. Will keep him in contention, but Aruja's coming up on this one at rate of knots as well. A bit of door barging as they go through turn 5, turn 6, and up towards turn 7 on McLean's. Hautamaki still on that inside line. Slots himself ahead. Graven has a car's length of space that Aruja was courteous in giving him.
As there's the move down the inside for Lockwood. So Lockwood now ahead of Aruja, making the most of that, taking advantage of it down the inside into Coppice. It is a move that you can make, but it doesn't always work through there. But yeah, definitely great stuff there as they all close up going into the chicane. You don't want to hit that left-hand curb too hard because it'll push you wide on the exit of the chicane as they head on down the start and finish straight. But one driver doing well so far, 4th place, Dan Craft, is keeping on the tail of Jamie Fluke in front. He's got Cohen Klopman behind. And these drivers, they're not getting pulled away from by Copa Lopez so far.
Yeah, Copa Lopez currently around about 5.5 tenths of a second ahead of these guys. That gap actually came down a little bit coming through the Craner curves, more like about 1/3 of a second between P1 and P2 at this stage. So Gibson putting in some very, very fast laps here to try and reel in your race leader. Up in towards Coppice Corner they go, though. Fluke, of course, 3rd in line. Made the announcement that he was joining this race on Twitter, and hoping that he didn't completely decimate his iRating. Well, he stands for a bit of a gain here, about 25 iRating if he finishes in P3, which won't be too shabby at all. But of course, he's a racing driver. He wants so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. He wants to be in the lead, and he wants to be pulling away from this lot. But with the 4 drivers in line here, a little bit of this is going to come down to tyre management and how they use up those front tyres, because setups only get you so far. You've got to be able to apply the brake and the accelerator in an efficient manner, not to completely wipe out your tyres. So that will come into a factor later on in the race, and we'll get to see who has done a better job at it.
Yeah, Gibson looking particularly aggressive at this stage of the race. Hasn't had an opportunity given to him just yet, but he's sitting in the perfect place just in case that arises at some point. You can see that little look in towards turn number 8. The body language of that number 1 car is looking like all aggression right now. Look how close he's following there off of turn 8 of Coppice Corner. Will this force Copa Lopez to go defensive? It is. He has to go to his driver's right-hand side, but Gibson will wrestle that line away from him side by side for the race lead in towards the final chicane. That's Gibson through with a very clean pass.
Yeah, that was a fantastic overtake there, and able to get the move done. We've got the battle for 3rd place going on as well between Fluke and Kraft, so they're coming across the line now. Fluke holding that inside line. Cohen Klopman's trying to get involved in this one as well. So all of a sudden these drivers starting to get a little bit fighty here and starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, yes, they are. Daniel Kraft wanting to make further progress up the field. He did start 6th. currently runs in 4th, but a podium would be absolutely fantastic for him coming towards the end of the race. He would put the cherry on top of a relatively good race that he's had so far, but we are still, of course, coming up to around about 23 minutes remaining, so still a long way to go for these guys. You still have to settle down and, of course, get that tyre management head on that you mentioned, Paul, because, you know, one thing that worries me now, if Gibson's putting in these sorts of laps this early on, he might just take too much out of the tyres, and then Coppolos can come back a little bit later on.
Well, I mean, that's what Ade will be hoping for. As they go through the chicane, you can see the cars bouncing over, although Klopman at the back of that queue just taking a little bit of a different line, avoiding the curbs there. So a little bit of different driving styles and tactics coming into play here. But Gibson at the front there for that core sim racing car. He's not doing too bad so far. We'll have a look at the lap gaps then. And Cobo Lopez just slightly slower these last couple of laps.
Yeah, he is. So maybe that'll be cause for concern for Cobo Lopez, or maybe he's thinking about the long game of having a little bit of better rubber coming towards the end of the race. But Daniel Kraft, though, right on the back bumper of Fluke, sends it down the inside at turn 7. Here's going to be a contact of the corner, very close to making contact, but they both are able to get away with it. Have to fall in line, though, for turn 8, and now this is just drawing the attention and drawing Cohen Klopman into this battle here for that 3rd step of the podium. When will he strike? That is the big question. Daniel Kraft has to be looking ahead and behind down in towards the final chicane, as Fluke very aggressive with that first apex. He's able to recover things, though, and keep things on the straight and narrow, but Kraft looking particularly strong at this stage in the race. On towards lap number 8. No move in towards turn 1, but Kraft is looking racy. Yeah,
Kraft is a very aggressive driver, and he generally is a safe driver as well. I must add that, but he is quite an aggressive driver. He wants to get ahead, but the problem is, with him fighting and with Jamie having to go on the defensive, they've lost about half a second, if not more, to the 2 leaders. So the 2 leaders are pulling away. And there has to come a time here, Connery, where, yeah, you want to move forward and you want to progress, but at the same point, you want to work together and try and keep with those leaders to give yourself the best opportunity later on in the race.
Yep, you really do. And of course, if those leaders do start to battle later on in the race, then they'll come back into contention anyway. Of course, you just want to think about how you want to manage this race from this sort of position here for Kraft. Do you go for those aggressive moves that are not 100%, in terms of you being able to get past? You want to play the percentages game. If there's an obvious opportunity and you have all the cards in your favor, you can get the pass done pretty quickly. But if you have an extended side-by-side battle, those leaders are just going to get further and further away.
Speaking of extended side-by-side battles, contact between the 13 and the 10. That's Newman and O'Short. O'Short goes off the track here. I saw it on my timing screen, and we have got live timing available, by the way. We'll look at this on replay then. From the 13, he's got a man to his right here, and it's going to be a little bit of a later break. Bang! Into the back of Newman. Newman's done well there, to be fair, to hold on to that one. Then clattered into the side of O'Short there.
Yeah, Abelan really, that wasn't really his fault there. He was committed to his line, so was O'Short there trying to return to the racing surface. It was a simple case of 2 into 1. Doesn't go. Not going to really ascribe blame in that sort of situation. So battles at the front of the field, battles towards the rear end as well. That's how competitive this field is here today. 5,311 iRating is the strength of field here today. So very, very competitive field, and some of the top TCR drivers here on iRacing as well. As these guys on towards lap number 10 now, and Kraft still behind Fluke right now, and both of them are setting. Kraft was actually able to set a lap time faster than anyone else out there on circuit that last time around. So he seemingly has the speed here. He just has a bit of a roadblock here in terms of the Northern Irishman.
Yeah, absolutely. Kraft, he's no stranger to a touring car. Raced many years in the Kia. in private touring car leagues, and he certainly can pedal a front-wheel drive car, and is showing that here today when you consider that Jamie Fluke is a World Championship driver in the Porsche Esports Super Cup. Of course, that finished last weekend. Hope you all enjoyed that one, because we did, that's for sure, in commentary booth. But yeah, Fluke, he's having a bit of fun out here, but he also wants to win. So he's got the pace, but Kraft just seems to have that little edge over him at the moment.
Yeah, a little edge, but the thing is, at a circuit such as this, a little edge just simply isn't enough. You need to have quite a lot of speed over your opposition to be able to pull off the overtakes here, as we're coming towards the halfway point of this race now. That 15-minute mark is ever nearer, and currently we still have technically 5 drivers in contention for the race win here today. Of course, there is a little bit of separation between between P2 and P3, but that could all be gobbled up in the right circumstances here. As we look back towards P number 6, then that is Cedric Nebelschek on the defensive from Hautamaki. So it's going to be Team RSO. This is going to be Hautamaki then inside for turn 6, becomes the outside for McLean's corner. He's gone very deep around the outside there, trying to carry the momentum all the way around, but not able to bring it side by side up in towards Coppice corner. Nebelschek just able to slot himself ahead, just right on the nose of the number 9. Yeah,
and he's having to go really defensive here as Nebelschek then, as they head on down the Starkey Straight once again. And Hautamaki, he's going to the inside of the chicane, makes the move, late break. He can do that, but he's not going to have the run out the chicane. And here comes Nebelschek back now.
Yep, he is. So Team RSO versus Satellite Racing. Eventually I recognize liveries. Look at the door rubbing down in towards turn number 1. Hautamaki taking no prisoners. This is his racetrack, and he's able to squeak his way ahead finally after pulling off that move down the inside at the chicane. So brilliant move, Hautamaki. This one isn't done yet by any means, because Nebelschek almost running into the back bumper, coming through the Craner curves in towards the old hairpin. Then, of course, you have other drivers in this train as well. You have Brian Lockwood, you have Tim Graven as well, looking to improve positions. But that was a fantastic pass by Hautamaki into the chicane. Had to finish it off on the brakes in towards turn 1, but he got disposed of it relatively quickly. Yeah,
it was. He made the most of it down the straight into the chicane. He then held his inside line for Redgate corner, turn number 1, so he was able to get ahead. Now he needs to try and pull away, and that's going to be a lot more difficult than you would imagine as they head on down into the braking zone once again. Clatter over the curbs there for all 4 cars. But they're in a queue of traffic at the moment, just like your lead queue is in a line as well. And I would dare say that the 3rd place to 5th place is actually gaining on your 2 leaders.
Just bit by bit by bit. It was a 111.1 there for Ali Copa Lopez, a 110.9 for Fluke, a 110.9 for Dan Kraft as well. So P2 and P4 are catching your 2nd place runner here. So that one might be interesting in the final half of this race. Can they catch? Are they able to pull off the passes? And of course, similarly so for that latter point here in this P6 battle, because Hautamaki, it was an impressive pass, but he hasn't been able to pull away here. Nebelschek's been able to keep himself in contention. And of course, there's also a big question mark about what Lockwood and Tim Graven do if they're given the opportunity as well.
Yes, they head on down. Lockwood and Graven, to be honest, they could just sit there for maybe 5 minutes or so, but after that they want to be starting moving forward. Of course, Lockwood, one of your people who has moved forward in this race today. So there you go. There's the movers and shakers. As you can see, Thomas Gibson, great day for him so far, up 3 positions. But Nebelschek up 7, Lockwood up 9 positions, along with Sanchez as well.
Yeah, of course, big movers in the field. Sometimes qualifying doesn't go your way and you have to do it all in the race, especially early on where those passes are aplenty, or opportunities at passes are aplenty, and same thing here for Nebelschek, as he had the run coming out the old hairpin, but wasn't able to find a line in towards turn 6 to be able to challenge that satellite racing car ahead of him, as Hautamaki goes very wide coming through turn 7. Nebelschek again had a bit of a run into the braking zone of turn 8, but this is going to be the main overtaking zone now. Down the back straight, try and eye up those brakes in towards turn 9 and turn 10. That final chicane, Nebelschek, since to remove, is going to follow his man very closely into the braking zone. You know, you can see that Nebelschek had half a mind of slinging it down the inside there, but decided against it. Maybe if this was a last lap or last 2 laps thing, then he might have gone for it, but this time, maybe into towards turn 1 is the better opportunity for that Team Arasoka. Hautamaki on the outside line, Nebelschek on the inside. Is he able to slot his way ahead? Is he able to get clear for the Craner curves? He just slots himself ahead. Very well worked past there by the driver of the 7.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. He got the run out the chicane. That's what gave him the advantage. And then down the start and finish straight. And the thing is, Hautamaki as well, he didn't really defend that one that much. I think he realised that it was going to be a done deal. So you might as well just lose as little time as possible and end up just right behind, rather than fighting it tooth and nail and ending up maybe having a contact and moving further down your field.
Yeah, and you can just see how Nebelschek has been able to pull out a good couple of tenths of a second over Hautamaki here. So now this might be Brian Lockwood's time to shine into the braking zone of the chicane. Again, following very, very close, trying to do the repeat of what Nebelschek was able to do, but not a great execution of it this time. Actually allows Tim Graven to catch up to the back of Lockwood as they head their way onto the start of lap 16 here. Just to give you a little bit of an update on your race leaders, still Thomas Gibson leading the race. You have Arecopa Lopez in P2, around about 4 tenths of a second behind him. Jamie Fluke and Daniel Kraft still in the same order for P3 and 4. And Cohen Klopman, well, yeah, he's exactly where he started in that P5, just watching and waiting, to see if anything happens ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. The rest of your top 8 on screen as well. But, that battle has calmed down. But this one, further down for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and now 10th as well. This is all starting to get a little bit exciting here. And, this one certainly isn't over, not yet by a long shot.
Not yet. It seems like these 2 drivers are relatively evenly matched in pace, both able to pull off the overtakes here today as they clatter again over that first apex. You have to be careful you don't, you're having a bit of an excursion out there too much. But Hautamaki, he's made a move in towards, he's completed that pass down in towards turn 1 before. He's had to defend the move into turn 1 before. How does he approach this one now with Nebelschek ahead once again?
I mean, time's running out. You're into the last 10.5 minutes now. You're talking about a 26-lap race around here, so it's a half-hour race, and you're in this final third. You've got to start making those moves. If you think you're definitely faster than the car in front, you want to try and get those moves done. They've dropped that much time off of 5th place that they can't really think of moving any further forward unless the leaders have a bit of an instant. But these drivers right here, they're basically settling for trying to see who's the best for 6th place.
That does seem to be the case, as Hautamaki again not going to be close enough this time into the chicane. If he gets a good run out, then that turn 1 opportunity might just become a thing. He was relatively fast through that final chicane this time around. You can just see how he's catching inside that slipstream on the way in towards turn 1. So maybe that's what Hautamaki has to repeat, but just a little bit closer to the rear bumper of Nebelschek into the final chicane. What's happened?
We're going 3 wide in towards turn number 1, further down your field, and it's going to be a move around the outside for Kane Halliburton. Is he going to make this one stick? He's got Sanchez up alongside him down the Craner curves. You don't normally go 2 wide down here, but right now these drivers showing exactly what you can do, and Halliburton, great move then, up into 12th place, having to make a recovery drive here. But what an effort from these drivers further down your field. See, there's battles all the way through this field.
Yes, there is, and well, Tannoni is looking to get himself involved in this one for positions just outside of your top 10. Newman is also having a look into turn 8 as well. So everyone in this train near the back of the field absolutely stacked together and very close coming off of Coppice as well. So Newman might have a look here down into the chicane over Tannoni as they all fall in line and not wanting to go for the move just yet, but they're absolutely nose to tail, bumper to bumper through 9 and 10. And Newman again may just have a look for an opportunity in towards turn 1. Tannoni's forced to go defensive, returns back to the normal racing line. Newman inside, looking to wrestle that inside line away. He's able to get a nose in, but a nose is not enough. Tannoni is able to secure the defense there for that P14 as they head down the Grena Curse for the 19th time. And well, Albalan's on the back of this one. Hidagio is on the back of this one as well. Newman again very quick through the old hairpin, just riding the back bumper of the Audi ahead of him as it looks for the move in towards turn 6. That line will be covered off. Turn 7 might be an opportunity. Meanwhile, Abalan has a sensor dive a little bit further back as well. So these guys are holding no prisoners. They're wanting to fight almost at every corner, but they're not able to find the space to.
I just get the feeling that Tannoni is holding these guys up because of the way that the two in front, Sanchez and Halliburton, are able to pull away here. Down the Starkey Straight again. We'll have to focus our attention towards the front in a moment. Newman's going to get tagged there. Around he goes. Does he stop the... And that's it. He's disqualified. He's reached the instant limit.
Oh no, that is absolutely tragic there from Newman. Abalan, well, he needed to be about half a meter further to the right to be able to sling it down the inside there. Just gets into Newman's right rear wheel arch a little bit, spins him across the apex, causes him to go over the instant limit, and he will take no further part in this race.
Yeah, it's heartbreak for Newman. He'll feel hard done by for that one. And well, he's a really nice guy, is Pete, as well. So yeah, getting roughed up. That's the thing you've got to worry about in these races. We've got just under 6.5 minutes remaining. You've got to worry about that instant limit because yes, you can use the old shoulder and barge your way through, but end of the day, you've got to watch that instant limit and make sure that you keep within those boundaries as the number 5 car, Brian Lockwood, running wide out in the final chicane.
Yep, able to get that one back on circuit though. Just 2 tyres into the dirt, into the grass on the outside of that particular corner, and hasn't really lost all that much time as a result of that one. Again though, wide through turn 1 of Redgate. That was just as the curb became grass and just grabbed at the car and caused him to have a little bit of a cause for concern there. Yeah,
it's can be a little bit worrisome. The thing is, with the way this car is, as soon as you grab one of those front wheels on the grass, it just seems to pull your car in to just further and further into the grass. We've got a battle for your lead now because Thomas Gibson coming under increasing pressure from Adicoba Lopez now. Last 5 minutes of the race, the lead battle is heating up now.
Coba Lopez faster by 1/10 of a second on that last lap. Has he been able to save the tyres for a late race attempt at the race lead here across the line? Around about 6 laps for these guys to decide their differences, but Gibson able to put in a reply there 0.2 of a second faster than Coba Lopez that time around, and I think that was because Coba Lopez had a relatively bad run coming through that final chicane, so wasn't able to capitalize on all the time that he had gained. But if that was just a little bit of a blip there for Coba Lopez and he really does have pace at the end of this race, we might just see a battle for the race lead.
Yeah, we certainly could see that. We're looking further down your field as well. Back to that battle for 6th place. They're still battling. They're still fighting away. It's the irresistible force versus the immovable object right here between these two. And they're certainly giving us a good show. But at the moment, it's staying as it is with 4 minutes remaining. So you need to be making your moves now and making them count because time is running out in this race. So head on through Coppice. It's a really tricky corner as Coppice because it's a blind apex. You can't see the apex of the corner, so you've just got to hope that it's basically exactly where you left it. Looking forward, Colin Klotman as well. He's all over the back of Dan Kraft now as Kraft runs wide out the chicane.
Yeah, Jamie Fluke has been able to gap these guys behind. So Kraft now, he was on the offensive for the majority of this race, now has to defend in towards turn 1 as Klotman had a sense of the inside line there, but it was a little bit too far back to be able to make that move into there. Didn't prevent him from attempting to show the nose anyway, regardless. But Kraft now, he needs to have more of a defensive mindset in this one, and that's sometimes a hard adjustment to make as a driver when you've been attacking all of this time, and all of a sudden there's a car big in your wing mirrors.
Yeah, it's you've got to adjust that mentality of, right, okay, I'm not hanging with the car in front. These two now are 2 seconds behind Jamie Fluke at this point in the race, so you know, they're battling away as Nebelchek's still holding on here, and it's getting more aggressive as this battle for sixth, by the way, cutting across each other's nose. Looking to the inside, that's a great cutback from your 7th place man, down the straight. Well, who's going to give? I'm going to say neither of them.
Yeah, battle of the late breakers into the chicane. Hautamaki's gone a little bit deeper. He's able to slot himself ahead. It was a shunt to the back bumper for Nebelchek. He'll get the run off the corner. Hautamaki got a little bit of oversteer. He's crowding Lockwood off the circuit as well. It causes pandemonium behind as they'll go 2 by 2 into the first turn. Then Nebelchek on the outside, Hautamaki inside. There's Tim Graven giving a little bit of contact there too. Nebelchek coming through turn 1. Lockwood's been able to get through there unscathed. Arujo also looking to get himself involved as well as Graven fights with him down through the Craner curves, able to slot himself ahead, but that was a big moment for everyone involved as Graven goes slowly there through the old hairpin. Might just give Arujo an opportunity here as back at the front of the train, Nebelchek's basically pushing Hautamaki.
Yeah, it's all got a bit tasty at this point, but the thing is, we're going to have to look to the front in a moment, because here we go. We're heading towards, 2 laps to go potentially here as they're heading into the chicane, so they're battling away. Hautamaki is off.
Oh no, what has happened here? Coming up through turn 8 of Coppice, it was Nebelchek, well, basically bumping him out the way. The punt is out there and sends him into the grass and the gravel on the outside of the corner. That wasn't really sportsmanlike, if you ask me, but Nebelchek, he's been able to get to the front of that P6 train now, and is coming under threat from Lockwood, who has to go around the outside, look for the cutback off the corner, gets stalled in the middle of the corner though. That was Nebelchek just putting his car in all the right places, just denying the run off the corner for Lockwood.
Yeah, it's really picked up now as we're heading in towards the end of this race. All while this is going on, by the way, the lead battle, it's 2 tenths between them, but Jamie Fluke has been gaining.
Yeah, Copa Lopez had a sense of the inside there over Thomas Gibson. This is for your race lead, and again he's weaving into the braking zone of turn 8 of Coppice, and it actually causes him to make a mistake, and all of a sudden Fluke can get himself 1 step higher on that podium for the end of the race. It will be 1 lap to go as these guys come across the line this time around. Lopez was almost forced to go defensive into the chicane, but it might just be a 3-car fight for the race lead here. Gibson leads by 4.5 tenths of a second here to Adecopa Lopez as Fluke is looking to improve position.
He certainly is. He's looking dangerous as Fluke, as we can't deny the battle behind with Klotman and Kraft as well. All of a sudden everybody's getting racy here. It's almost like they've been spending all the time defending, and Lockwood is wide at the Redgate corner. Nebelchek going very defensive into the last corner. I think we're going to have a 3 different replays of the last lap from different battles here, but we'll focus on the lead battle.
Yep, just half a lap for these guys to go through turn 7, McLean's corner. Gibson has a 3.5 tenths of a second advantage over Adecopa Lopez. That comes down to 2.5 tenths as they head their way through Coppice corner. So Copa Lopez, will we see the send? Will we see the dive in towards the final chicane. Gibson is certainly scared of that prospect. He goes defensive into the braking zone. Cooper Lopez will have a wider line, goes late on the brakes, rides the back bumper of your race leader through the final corner, but Gibson is able to hold on. Across the line he goes. He will win round 4 here of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Great win from Thomas Gibson there at the end. It's still not over further down your field, and Nebelcheck is going to end up in a robustly hard fought 6th place. I think there'll be a couple of drivers not happy about his defensive driving, but right there, that was it was certainly an interesting end to the race there. But Thomas Gibson, great drive from him, starting 4th into 1st.
Yeah, making up those positions early on, and when that late race threat came from not just Cooper Lopez, but from Fluke as well, he was able to hold strong and able to defend the move in towards the final corner, and able to win here by 1.5 tenths of a second. That was it across the line for P1 and P2 here today. Jamie Fluke, well, his iRating is safe. In fact, he grows it a little bit more. He finishes on the final step of the podium, with Daniel Kraft finishing P4 ahead of Cohen Klopman. Those two had a pretty good fight towards the end as well. And then you have your P6 train, which gave us a lot of action here today. Cedric Nebelcheck comes out on top of that one, but some drivers will be hard done by some of the bits of contact they've had with him in this race. Tim Graven will finish in P7 with Daniel Arujo. He started front row, has to finish in P8 here today. Brian Lockwood, though, with a good race. He is up 8 positions into P9, with Hout Tamaki finishing inside that top 10. Xavier Sanchez from the bottom of the grid gains 9 into the P number 11, with Kane Halliburton finishing in P12. Miguel Garcia Sanchez P13 here, with Hidalgo in P14, with Tononi P15. Barrio will finish in P16, with Victor Albalan in P17. Nicholas Short will finish P18, and then you have your 2 retirements. Pete Newman disqualified, no fault of his own. 8 laps down, finishes P19. And Berenick there, 24 laps down, is your final classified runner. Anyway, that was a fantastic event that we've had here. It seems like these Audi TCR cars keep delivering week on week on week, and it makes me look forward to these races every single time we get to show them. But we're not just done here just yet. We'll have a little bit of a break, and we'll bring you the post-race show just after this. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the post-race show here on Racesport TV, streaming live on the iRacing Esports Network. Of course, Racesport Friday primetime once again here, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge from Donington Park. What a brilliant race we've had here yet again in this series, Paul. It seems just keep delivering. Absolutely
does. It's great racing, a little bit of a different race. Of course, last week was very much about the slipstream, whereas here today it was more about the tactics and when and where you make those overtakes.
It was indeed, and we'll get ourselves an interview with a driver here that finished in P5, exactly where he started. That P4 was definitely on the cards coming towards the end of the race, but I'll say no more. And Paul, well, you'll take it away from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cohen, we have you join us here in the commentary booth, and I mean, it was a difficult race for yourself because you were stuck in that queue of traffic, and you weren't really able to move forward. Just talk us through that race, because it looked really difficult to overtake out there.
Yeah, it was basically a big draft train, only on Donington and not on Road America this time. Yeah, it's really hard to pass here. I mean, you could throw it down the inside on the chicane, but I'm not really that kind of a driver. And from my point of view, it's better to like stay single file and like follow the leaders, because they had a really good pace out there. So yeah.
Well, I mean, we saw early on how the five of you were able to stick with the leaders, but was it just that Daniel and Jamie starting to fight just lost you that edge over the Kerber Lopez and Gibson?
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, Thomas and Ade were really fast. They were like, I mean, on tenths, maybe 2/10 faster a lap, and we were like hanging on in the draft. So yeah, I'm not sure if we would have stayed with them anyway, but Jamie proved he could like get to them anyway. But I don't know if Thomas and Ade started fighting or not, because I was so busy with Daniel in my fight, which was really fun though. But yeah.
And just to talk us through we're what, the third of the way through the season now. How have you been finding the racing in this TCR, this Audi TCR? Because we've been loving watching this.
Yeah, the cars are really close, or let's say the skill gap. I mean, there is basically no skill gap because everyone is fighting for like the last tenth, and I mean the drivers are really close on track, and that's gets us some pretty good racing.
It certainly does, but next time out we're heading on to Road Atlanta, then out to Georgia, a different type of track with a mix of more technical corners to start the lap, and then that long straight where you need that draft. How do you think you'll handle that track next week?
Oh, I got really good memories about that track with Petit Le Mans 2 years ago, but I won't be there next week, so I will be on holiday. I'm going to America actually, so I won't be able to race.
Oh, that's a shit. Will you be doing Petit Le Mans though this weekend?
No.
Oh dear, so missing out on Road Atlanta. Well, before we let you go anyway, is there anyone you want to give a quick mention to whilst here on the broadcast?
I want to thank you guys for broadcasting this, and that's it, actually.
Well, thank you very much, and it's always nice when drivers thank us, but Cohen, congratulations on a 5th place at least, and getting some good points in the series.
Yep, definitely.
Well, there we go. Cohen Klopman finishes in P5 here today, of course, in contention for a little bit more if he was able to do anything about Daniel Kraft. But as he said, Paul, it was very difficult to overtake here today. But despite that fact, we still had some great battles.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and this is the thing. With this car, you get battling all the way down the field as well. It's not just in that front group. You just get these little battle packs, especially around this track, through the field. So it was great to look at that, and it was almost difficult to know where to look next out there. So again, commendable racing. A little bit of bumping and barging going on, but it is touring cars. You kind of expect that a little bit with how close the cars are here in this series. But that'll be that. Donington, it's a different challenge to Road Atlanta, and it's one that these drivers will savour next week.
Yep, indeed. So that is going to be all that we have time for here on this week's edition of RaceSpot TV Friday Prime Time on the iRacing Esports Network. But join us same time, same place, and well, we'll get ourselves to Road Atlanta for next week's event. But the racing isn't done here this weekend on iRacing, not by any means, because tomorrow you have the iRacing special event, iRacing Petit Le Mans, coming at you here on the iRacing Esports Network, so do not forget about that. And of course, we have the first round of the iRacing Rallycross Thrustmaster Rallycross World Championship. I'll get it in the right order. So more World Championship action here on the iRacing Esports Network, which is very, very good to see indeed. I've been Conor Maddock, that's been Paul Smith. We'll join you same place next week.